All right, what's up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast real estate tip. And today I'm here to break down how to effectively convert your real estate leads into appointments. Look, the whole reason that leads exist inside our real estate businesses is so that we can go out there and set appointments. Now, obviously, then appointments exist so we can go out there and conduct those at a very high level and convert those appointments into customers. However, when I speak to, and I have so many conversations with real estate agents, team leaders, and brokerage owners on a daily and weekly basis, and one of the common things is I'm breaking down what their obstacles are, what their biggest sticking points in their business is. One of the most common things that I hear is, man, I need more leads. Lead generation is my biggest obstacle. And I get that. I understand that. And I don't want to sit here and say that sometimes in certain situations is lead gen the primary issue, but I'm here to tell you it's extremely, extremely rare. The primary issue, as I start peeling back those onion layers, the primary issue then quickly becomes discovered. It's their inability to convert those leads into appointments. And I see this being one of the biggest, if not the overall biggest bottleneck outside of maybe motivation and drive, that why real estate agents or team leaders or brokerage owners aren't at the exact level that they want to be at. So today I'm going to be breaking down 8 different key factors, 8 different steps that you need to hone in, that you need to dial in to become that lead conversion machine. So you're not just generating leads, but then you know how to effectively convert those leads into appointments, because that's what we need to truly do. It's like every lead that is inside your CRM exists inside your CRM for one reason and one reason only, is for you to be able to convert them into an appointment. Then hopefully from there, and I have other podcasts on this that you can go check out, of how do you go out there and effectively conduct those appointments and convert those into clients. Like we got to understand that. We got to know that, real estate is a 2-step sales process. Step number 1, you set the appointment. Step number 2 on the appointment is where you articulate your value and go in for the close. So I want to do a deep dive on this to make sure that all of you are lead conversion freaking machines, so you can go out there and set more appointments than you can go out there and handle. So that's what we need to get to. We need to become a client acquisition machine, where next thing we know, we're able to go out there and set more appointments we can handle. And that's where life gets really good. And maybe you're already at that level, but if you're not, I'm telling you, that's where I really started to enjoy this business, when then I could start being picky and choosy about who I work with. No longer did I have to go out there and work with those clients that didn't respect me or treated me like shit, or, didn't want to maybe compensate me for the value that I believed I was worth. Once I honed in this skill set, and once you have that ability to go out there and convert more customers, more leads, more customers than you can handle, now you get to be in control. You get to pick and choose who you're going to work with, because you don't have the time, to go out there and work with and serve with everybody. And then that leads us into being able to start growing and expanding our teams and brokerages, if that's something that you want to do. All right, so we're going to break down these 8 steps, do a deep dive in these 8 steps. Make sure you got your notebook handy, because I want you to take in, deep notes on this. But before we jump into these 8 steps, look, if you are a real estate agent, real estate team leader, real estate brokerage owner, and your real estate business is not exactly where you want and need it to be, I invite you to schedule a 100% free, 100% zero Zoom, 100% zero pressure Zoom coaching call with me personally, where here's what we're going to do. It's an hour-long Zoom coaching call, 100% free, and we're going to break down where your business is currently at, what your 12-month goals are, what your long-term goals and visions are for your real estate business, what you're currently doing, what your biggest obstacles are. Then from there, I'm going to map out what my recommended strategy is to get you from exactly where you're at to where you want to go in the quickest, most effective, efficient, profitable manner possible that's unique to your situation. I'm not just going to walk you through, oh, well, here's what I do. Here, no, I'm going to walk you through, hey, if I was in your shoes, if I was in your situation as a coaching client, I'm going to walk you through exactly what I recommend that you do based on the market that you're in, based on what your goals are, your own unique situation, what your vision is, and so forth in your real estate business. So if you want to take full advantage of this, go to www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. Now, once you book that, there's going to be a really important, quick, short video that I need you to watch to make sure that you are most prepared for this time together, so we can make sure that you do not leave this free Zoom coaching call without knowing exactly what you must do to get from where you're at to where you want to go in the quickest, most effective, efficient, profitable manner possible. All right, enough on that. Let's jump into breaking down these 8 different steps, so then that way you can become this lead conversion machine and go out there and set more appointments again than you can handle. Now, I should point this out. Look, this is all these 8 steps. Everything I'm here covering with you today are going to apply regardless of what level that you're at. Maybe you're a brand new real estate agent. Maybe you're a seasoned individual agent. Maybe you're a real estate team leader. Maybe you're a real estate brokerage owner. Or hey, maybe you're in mortgage. Maybe you're in another sales, seat, another sales industry. All of these are going to apply. Because look, if we speak to real estate specific, you're either recruiting buyers, you're recruiting sellers, or eventually recruiting agents, or eventually you're recruiting your leadership team to go out there and do those things for you. All 8 of these things I'm going to cover here with you here today apply to you regardless of what level that you're at. This is just about, again, how do we go out there and convert these leads into the appointment so we can move them forward to that next progressive step? And, most people in this industry, at least when I'm having conversations with them, they believe, you see, usually isn't the case as I start breaking down the conversion numbers, but they usually believe, or they're usually confident that they're pretty damn good once they get face-to-face. Common thing that I hear is, oh man, once I get in front of people, like I'm really good. I'm really good at connecting. I'm really good at articulating my value. I'm really good at leading seamlessly into the close, but again, most people have this huge bottleneck on, well, how do I go out there and convert these leads into appointments? How do I, when I have people coming through my open house, or when I'm generating online leads, or whether it's prospecting based, marketing based, whatever, how do I effectively lead those conversations or those contacts or those interactions into setting an actual buyer consultation, listing presentation, agent recruit presentation? And that's what we're here to cover today. Okay, so step number 1. Key factor number 1 into becoming a lead conversion, absolute machine is you need to understand that sales is the name of the game. Now, I know that might sound basic, but this is really, really important. The vast majority of our industry experiences these roller coasters, and I also see it with team leaders and brokerage owners when it comes to their agent recruiting. Like they'll go out there, they might need some agents. They go out there and recruit some agents, and they take the foot off the accelerator until a bunch of agents leave. Then they're like, oh shit, now I need some more agents, and they start recruiting agents again. But here's what and I'll just use the the situation for real estate agents, because this is something that if you're our team leader, broker owner, which I know a lot of you that are listening to this, you got to be able to solve this at a high level as a leader inside your company for your agents. Right. But with most agents, their whole entire career is just a freaking income roller coaster, right? Where it's like, okay, you have a great month or two, and then that's followed by a shitty next 2 or 3 months. Then you have a great, it just is this up and down roller coaster ride with commission income coming in. And that is 100% avoidable. That does not need to be the case. That is a choice, especially after you watch this podcast here today or listen to this podcast today. That is a choice. You do not need to experience that if you don't want to. And after maybe before you listen to this information, it wasn't a choice. After you've listened to this information I'm going to share with you here today, that is 100% a choice. So the reason why I understand that sales is the name of the game is like, look, talk to somebody out there like, well, I know I'm in sales, but I don't want to be salesy. And we'll talk about this later. Look, the cool thing is you don't need to be salesy, but you need to understand that your job is to go out there and sell crap. But here's the cool thing about real estate is we're actually not selling a physical product. Now, I know that might sound weird. Yeah, people are buying and selling real estate, and we're helping facilitate that experience. But the fact of the matter is people already sold on the fact they want to buy and sell real estate. People already sold on the fact they want a career in real estate. What we are selling them on is that we are the best guide to get them from point A to point B. So when we understand and know that sales is the name of the game, then we know how to start allocating our focus. So you need to make this a massive priority in your daily and weekly schedule where you are prioritizing new sales, new client acquisitions out there inside your business. And here's my biggest piece of recommendation here for you on this. I call it winning the day by noon. So one of the reasons why all these real estate agents have this roller coaster income, throughout their whole entire career, and I experienced that too. Almost anybody that's been in the industry for a long enough time experiences it until they get sick of experiencing it. Then they have to figure out how to go out there and solve that issue. Is because, okay, you're doing the lead gen, you're doing the lead follow up, then all of a sudden you get some customers. Well, then you stop doing that stuff because now you're busy with all these customers. And you're going out there and servicing those customers, getting them under contract, getting it closed, and then all of a sudden they close, you got your commission check. Now you realize, oh crap, I'm unemployed now, if you will. I don't have anything in the pipeline because I took my foot off the accelerator. The activities that led to me getting those things in place in the first point, or in the first place. Well, we can't do that. Right. So when I say winning your day by noon, and this is just a very easy, very simplistic rule to follow inside your real estate business, is when it comes to your lead follow-up. I'm not saying these have to be your lead gen activities. I'm talking about your lead follow-up, or if you are doing prospecting, I would recommend to make sure it's done during this time. But get all of your KPIs, right? That means the numbers that you need to hit daily and weekly inside your business, get those complete and done before 12 noon. Now, why do I say before 12 noon? There are two distinct key reasons for this. Okay, so number one, the earlier in the day we have, just as human beings, this is how we're wired. We have more willpower the earlier in the day. It's like, dude, I'm never crushing a carton of ice cream for breakfast. I'm crushing that carton of ice cream for dinner, or like late in the evening after I'm freaking mentally tired, after I'm physically tired and exhausted, and I'm just done, and all my willpower's wane and out the window, and I'm stressed. That's when I'm, eating the whole damn carton of ice. Not that I eat ice cream, but like if and when I ever do, cheat, it's at that time because my willpower is just shot and gone. It's like Brian Tracy's great book. And Brian Tracy's one of the, sales trainers of one of the greats of our time. His book, Eat Your Frog First, right? That's about doing the hard shit first, right? Same thing as why I get up first thing in the morning and I work out super early just to get that crap done, get that out of the way. Cause I know the longer the day goes on, the more distractions that come up, the less willpower that I have, the more tired that I'm going to get. So I just get it out of the way. I want to get all that hard shit done first. Well, making follow-up calls or doing your lead follow-up, which is what we're talking about today, because it's effective. It's a lead follow-up. And you've all heard the saying, the fortune is in the follow-up, which is a true 100% true saying, but it's that follow-up that is going to allow you to set these appointments, right? Now, you'll get some appointments, that low-hanging fruit, instantly, like, okay, like when I'm at an open house, yeah, there is a select small percentage of people that I have conversations with that I set that immediate appointment. But the vast majority comes from that follow-up after the fact, after that event. Well, when it comes to doing our follow-up or prospecting calls, as I said a moment ago, man, it's mundane, it's boring, it's tedious, it's hard. It's like the unsexy, unfun things to do. I always look at it this way, like lead gen is like the workout, right? But then the lead follow-up is like the diet and meal prep. Well, the workout is kind of the easier, some of you might be like, screw you, Josh, working out ain't easy. I hate it, right? But for the most part, if you go down the health and fitness journey, the working out portion is the fun and more easy element of your health journey. But it only leads to about 10 to 20% of your success, right? The diet, it's like 6-packs get made in the kitchen, right? The diet, the meal prep, that's the boring, mundane thing that everybody freaking hates. So I look at lead gen as the workout. Like, that's the fun thing to do. It's more the sexy thing to do. It's the easier element to go out there and do. Man, it's the lead follow-up that sucks, and I get it. And when it sucks because it's boring, it's tedious, it's mundane, you got to deal with rejection. You're going to get exponentially, more no's than you ever get yeses, and that can be hard to do. So get that shit done first, and whatever that is, like, okay, maybe you want to go out there and pop a deal a week. Okay, well, that's probably going to take about 2 hours of lead follow-up of you doing. You got to have enough lead flow to do about two hours a day of lead follow-up, to go out there and pop about a unit a week inside your business. So I'm going to get all that shit done by noon. Number one, because of willpower. Number two, the longer the day goes on, the more distractions that you're going to have. The more, this is where typically our afternoons is where you're going to have more showings, you're going to have more buyer consultations, you're going to have more listing presentations, more fires come up. You're just going to have more and more distractions. So it massively reduces the probability that you're going to get these things done consistently. And if you don't want to have this roller coaster, right, you gotta have consistent daily and consistent weekly actions. If you want consistent income coming in your business and consistent good conversions coming in inside your business, it boils down to then daily consistent action. So you got to make sure, if we know that and understand that with step number one here, that sales is the name of the game, then we need to prioritize this on our daily and weekly schedules and make sure that it's done at a time where we're at our best strength, that we can get it done, get through it, push through the suck, but then also have the least amount of distractions that will block us from getting that thing done. Okay, key step number 2 is understanding, and I believe I said this earlier, so I might have jumped ahead of myself, but understanding, I want you to know and understand that real estate is a 2-step sales process. I'll explain why this is so important here in a second, but real estate is a 2-step sales process, meaning step number 1 is you sell the value of the appointment. Step number 2, at the appointment, is where you're articulating your value and going in for the close. How does this apply to when it comes to lead conversions, when it comes to following up with your leads effectively to set those appointments? How does this impact that by knowing this? A huge mistake that I see real estate agents or team leaders or brokerage owners, again, it doesn't matter if you're going after buyers, sellers, or agents with this, is they're trying to sell their value over the phone. They're trying to close the deal over the phone. They're trying to, look, when you're on the phone with your follow-ups or whatever element of communication that you're doing, you need to sell the value of the appointment. At the appointment, is where you articulate your value and go in for the close, right? So when all your lead follow-up, all of that stuff that you're doing, let's just say, for example's sake, you're following up with a buyer. All I'm doing, all my follow-up that I'm having with them, I'm not trying to sell my services over the phone. I'm not trying to sell me. It's about selling the value and the importance of the appointment. Now, you and I know why that appointment is so important for us to go out there and get. What's the stat out there? Something like, and it's maybe changed over time, but the last time that I heard the stat was something like 88% of buyers and sellers go with the first agent that they meet with and connect with in person. So we know why it's important for us. But if you want to, again, maximize and become extremely effective at being a lead conversion appointment setting machine, you got to be able to articulate as why it's of value to them. You've heard the analogy, I'm sure, with them, right? What's in it for me? So you need to be able to articulate that. Why should they meet with you? They're looking at not making maybe not buying for 8 months now. Why should they meet with you right now today? You've got to be able to articulate that to them and make it in such a way of why it's a value for them, how they can get all their ducks in a row, how that gives you time and gives them time to get the right game plan in place with the lender, get certain things in place that can make tens of thousands of dollars of a difference. So over time with their mortgage payments, by making sure their credit's in the right position, making sure that you got to be able to go out there and again, sell that with them. What's in it for me? So it's not about, again, why you need the appointment. Why should they meet with you right now? Why is that so important to them? That's why I say when I talk about real estate being a two-step process, step number one is sell the value of the appointment and why. So you want to give that compelling reason as to why they should to and why they need to, and get them to want to meet with you right now. Right? Regardless of if it's 8 months, 12 months. Now, if somebody looking to buy for 10 years, okay, I'm not going to, but anybody that's 1 year less or out, okay, I'm going to be pretty aggressive with my frequency at doing everything I can to try to get that appointment set up. Okay, so item number 3 is you must have your CRM and you must have your tracking system dialed in. Now, I apologize if you're a long-term listener to this podcast. You hear me beat these things to death all the time, but I know some of you are listening and tuning into this podcast for the first time. So this is so essential, and it's a good refresher for all of you, right? So why is your tracking system so essential to maximizing your effectiveness of converting leads into appointments? Is because their tracker not only creates predictability where you start to know, okay, well, how many leads, how many reach outs, how many conversations, how many appointments set, appointment conductions, clients closings equate to a closing. So it creates that predictability. But then each one of those numbers that we are tracking then allows you to know and understand where the holes in the bucket are inside your business. So an example of this, I was recently meeting with a coaching client of mine that wanted to go out there and double his business. Well, he's tracking his numbers using the trackers that I provide and give him inside my coaching program. And so I start looking at this. I'm like, dude, you don't need more leads. I looked at all his data. I'm like, dude, you don't need any more leads. You don't need to do more dials. You don't even need to have more conversations. Like your appointment set to conduction ratio is solid, conduction to client ratio is solid, client to closing ratio is solid. The bottleneck, the hole inside his bucket was conversations to appointment set. Right? He was at 1 out of 23 for that particular lead source, should be 1 out of 10. So we're able to see, okay, where the hole was, where the weakness was within his skill set or within his process. So then from there, now we can start going through his scripting. We can start going through, okay, what are you saying? How are you saying it? How are you leading the process? Then it allowed us to know what to start treating. Just think of this like if you're not feeling when you go to the doctor's going to run a bunch of tests to pinpoint the sickness. Now they know how to go out there and start treating that. So now we know how to start treating this. We're able to peel back the onion layers, identify the true root problem, get that fixed. Now just 2.3x his business, in a very fast way, without having to generate more leads, without having to spend more money, do more combos, do more dials or any of that, right? So tracking is essential. It's the only way to be able to know what elements of your business you got to improve, only way to create predictability. Now, when it comes to your CRM becomes the most important essential tool that you're using on a daily basis inside your business. Now, the thing that I want you to understand about a CRM, because if you don't, I'm telling you right now, if you don't have a CRM in place, you don't have it set up properly, and you don't learn to use it properly, you're never going to go out there and be effective at lead conversion. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to be in place. So just get this shit out of your mind that you don't need it. You don't, it's going to be an impossibility for you. Now just take my word on that. Well, you don't have to. You can go out there and do your own due diligence on it. But it just blows my damn mind of okay, this is the most important tool. Every top producer like myself and others on this, on the freaking planet will tell you the importance of this. And then the vast majority of our industry just No, I'm just not going to do it. I'm just going to ignore the advice. Like, that's just like, to me, it makes no fucking sense, but with your CRM, because what does a CRM stand for? Customer Relationship Management System. So this is where you are having all your leads, clients, customers, past clients, sphere of influence, all the relationships that you need to manage inside your business. But it is an impossibility to go out there and effectively follow up with your clientele, in the right manner without having a CRM in place, number one. But then it's not enough to just have a CRM in place. The CRM itself is useless, right? So then from there, you got to make sure that you have it set up correctly and you know how to utilize it correctly, because the system itself, like, why do systems exist? Systems exist for us to plug our processes into. Think of your processes as your instructions. So let's just say, for an example, like, one of the reasons why I see a lot of people having low conversion rates with appointments is, okay, when somebody books an appointment and then they no-show, which is going to happen 50% of the time for industry average. If you're really good, it should only be happening to you 25% of the time or less, but still 25% of the time where they no-show me. Okay, does that mean I should just walk away from those? Or the 50% of this industry that are the industry average, the vast majority, 90% of this industry that has a 50%, show rate? Does that mean those 50% that no-showed you, like, you should just, fuck them, screw them, and just move on? No. Like, there's a lot of freaking money in rebooks. Life gets in the way. People get busy, So, and then in my CRM, okay, I just click a button. It's a 26-day, 12-touch follow protocol. It's going to automatically email them 6 times. It's automatically going to task me 6 times to call them over the next 26 days, because I provided my CRM with the right, that I utilize, with the right instructions and the right processes, the right protocols to then keep this stuff on track. So you got to have your CRM, you got to have your trackers in place to go out there and maximize on lead conversions. Okay, so key item number 4 is you need to understand timeline and psychology per lead source. If you really want to maximize your lead conversions, this is essential. All 8 of these steps I'm walking you through, like, you miss any of these 8 steps, you're going to have lower conversions. You're not going to maximize and optimize your overall conversions, which just means that you are choosing to work way freaking harder than you need to go out there and work. Okay, that's unnecessary. You don't need to run against the wind. You don't need to go out there and have all this unnecessary resistance. This shit just makes it easy, makes you more effective. I'd rather work less hours, spend less money, and go out there, have to invest less in leads and whatnot, and have higher conversions and make a shit ton more money in this, the same amount of time or much less time. Okay, so then from there, when understanding timeline, understanding psychology per lead source, let me unpack this for you. So timeline is, okay, how long on average is that lead source from lead inception until boom, when they convert into a customer and a client and into a closing? What is that timeline average? The reason why this is so important to know and understand is it allows you to make sure that you are following up for a long enough time and with enough frequency to maximize conversions based on that source. So let's just say, okay, something like Facebook ads, which I've done a lot of historically. Okay, I know the average Facebook lead is inside my CRM for 6.7 months before becoming a client. So then would it make sense for me to only have a follow-up protocol that's a month long? I don't care how long you're calling and how long you're emailing and texting and all those things in those first 30 days. Like, you might be like nailing that the first 30-day follow-up. But then if you stop after 30 days and then give up on that lead, well, doesn't matter how well you perform those first 30 days, you're still going to have low conversions, right? Like, you got to make sure that your follow-up protocol is long enough. So, like, an example with expireds. Right. So I have a highly effective, high converting expired letter that I send out. If I don't have to call them, I'm not going to call them. Right. I'll call them if I need to call them. But I like to spend my time calling other higher converting, easier conversation, less resistant sources to maximize my time. So for expires, I like to do, a letter that works really well and converts really well. Now, then when my letter campaign and how I designed it to go out for 2 years, why did I do that? Because I know that 10%, when I start breaking down and studying timeline, okay, 10% of expireds relist within the first 90 days, but then 90% of them relist between month 4 and that 2-year mark. The vast majority. So, okay, like when I create my letter campaign, okay, for me, then it made sense based on timeline to create a 2-year-long letter campaign to maximize on conversions. One of the mistakes I see when people are calling expired is like, oh, they'll call once, they'll call day 1, or maybe they'll call that first week, and then they're shutting off. Well, if you only have 10% relisting out of the gate immediately, well, okay, you're minimizing. Again, you're creating a lot of resistance, minimizing your overall results for no necessary reason. It's totally unnecessary to go out there and do that. So timeline allows you to know how long, how frequent to go out there and follow up. Now, psychology, this is equally as important. You got to nail this too. Psychology, which is just, okay, what is going on in that lead's mind, right? That's all psychology means. And any smart marketer, any, great salesperson understands that they have to meet the person where they're at within what's going on in their mind, right? So this allows you to then identify what's your messaging need to be. What's your scripting, what's your messaging, whether it be letter campaigns, emails, text messages, whether you're doing video campaigns, whether you're doing calls, like it all works. And you can do a combination of all. You can do a different strategy. If anybody sits there and says, oh, this doesn't work, but this, dude, look, I've just discovered after doing this for 20 years and selling over 7,000 homes and split testing a shit ton of stuff, plus coaching over 5,000 realtors, team leaders, and broker owners, it all freaking works. If you're doing something that ain't working, it's not the thing. It's your approach to the thing. Like, you just need a better approach. You need a better strategy. Now, I'm not going to say that certain things don't work better than others, because they do. But with that, you got to make sure, regardless of what your follow-up protocol is and how you're following, that your messaging is matching, the communication is matching with where that lead is at in the process. So an example of this, let's just say we're, Zillow lead versus Facebook lead. Okay. Zillow leads are much further down the funnel, right? They went to Zillow to look at homes. Nobody goes on to Zillow to do anything other than to look at homes. When they inquire, it's kind of like the modern day cycle. When they inquire, they're actually asking specific questions about this property. And in most cases, they're calling because they want to go see that property. So I'm not wasting time with the Zillow lead, or not. I don't want to say waste time. I'm not like starting off with building crazy rapport, and small talk. It's like within 30 seconds out of my mouth, man, I'm going to be setting that damn appointment. Now, if I speak to a Facebook lead, that's a longer term nurture lead. Nobody goes on to Facebook to look at real estate. They went on to Facebook to go out there and be entertained, to unplug from life, to have a distraction, which is why people, at least maybe not you and I for business, but why the, consumers of it, users of it, go into social media just to escape life. No different than if they're watching TV or whatever. It's like nobody's going to go watch TV to look at real estate, but maybe you ran an old school commercial, and same thing there. It's like, okay, I bait and switch them, if you will, by having a compelling ad that captured their attention. Now they chose to opt in, so it's not a total bait and switch there, but hopefully you get my point there. But with them, they're further out. So if I spoke to them in that same damn way, I would freak them out. I would piss them down, create so much sales resistance that they would shut off. And they they would just opt out all my shit. With them, I got to keep them communicating, opening my emails, answering my text messages, continue answering my phone calls, and further that rapport. So how I'm speaking to those two leads is massively different. How I speak to an expired is way different than how I speak to a FSBO. How I speak to a FSBO is way different than how I speak to an absentee owner. How I speak to an absentee owner is way different than how I speak to maybe the divorce niche, people going through divorces that I'm targeting, right? So each different lead source, because of the psychology, then it can then differentiate when it comes to what your messaging needs to be to go out there and maximize conversions. So you got to go out there and know that and understand that and get that honed in and dialed in. Okay, so step number 5 here of being a highly effective at setting appointments and become a lead conversion machine is to understand and know acceptable conversions for that lead source. I'll talk to so many out there, like, well, how's this lead source working out for you? How would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10? Like 10, you're the best of the best. 1, you're suck. Right? No, okay. Oh, I'm really good. I'm good. Now back, okay, well, like, what's your conversions? I'll start asking about their numbers. Well, they don't know their numbers. They're not tracking their numbers. I'm like, okay, number 1, that makes it harder than know if you're good or not. But then number 2, how do you know what good is? Okay, I'll talk to some people at open house as an example. And they think that they're good, but they're converting like 1 out of 50 leads. Oh, I get like 10 people through every open house, and I'm averaging, about a closing every, 5th week from it. And I'm like, dude, that ain't good. That's bad. Like, that's poor. Those are poor conversions. Like 1 out of 10 is good. 1 out of 15 is good. 1 out of 10 is greatness, if you will. So we got to know, like, okay, what's average? And I'm just going to call average poor. So if we look, okay, what's industry average? Because we know that the average realtor would make more money working full-time at McDonald's than they do in this industry. Like, the average realtor is broke as a joke, right? So, okay, what average conversions are, just classify that as poor. So if you're doing average conversions with industry averages, I look at that as, okay, that is me doing piss poor. That is me doing, a shitty ass job. I need improvement. Then identify what's good. then identify what's great, what's exceptional. So then now you have a baseline of knowing how to go out there and improve and how to level up your skill set. So you have those right expectations, with that. Because I'm telling you right now, the quickest way to go out there and 2x, 3x, 4x your business isn't a 2x, 3x, 4x your hours, isn't a 2x, 3x, 4x even the amount of leads that you generate. It's just get 2x, 3x, 4x, better at the shit that you're already doing, right? Okay, so then step number or key element number 6 is okay. Then from there, now that we've identified all the things that we've talked about, now I'm looking at, okay, with this specific lead source, I understand timeline, I understand psychology, I understand all the things, what the right conversion rates should be for me to know if I'm doing a good job or a great job, all of those things that we already talked about. Now, I want you then to map out and create what the overall effective follow-up process needs to be to go out there and maximize conversions. So, and before you start, jumping into your CRM, before you, I whiteboard this shit out. Okay. How many emails should they get and how frequently? So, okay, when I'm like, just start mapping out, how is this going to go? This is going to be the process, right? The process is the steps. So from this lead, from the second I get this lead to the second they become a customer, to become a client, what is the best overall follow-up protocol? And what are those steps? How often am I doing my calls? Right. So then, okay, I'm going to call them X amount of times, spread out with this frequency for this long. Okay. When am I emailing? When am I texting them? So then now I've mapped out and built out, so like an example, I'll just give, open houses. Let's just say, okay, open house is done. As soon as I get done with the open house, boom, step number 1 of my process is I shoot out a personalized video text message. Then the next step of the process, I enter them into my CRM. They get put on a 1,000-day long email text follow-up protocol where that starts off pretty aggressively, where they're getting, an email and a text about every 3 days. And then over time, it starts to slowly wane off where they're getting about, one email, one text message a week. And then over time, as we get, into that, past that second year, it might be, email every 10 days and a text, every 2 weeks, but okay, I've got that, okay, 1,000-day long, 3-year email text. Here's what my email and text are going to be there. Okay. Then from there, okay, I'm going to set them up on instant property alerts. So the second any property comes available that meets their criteria, and if I didn't know, or I don't know what their criteria is, okay, I'll set up what's similar for that open house, so they're instantly getting property alerts out of my CRM the second those properties come available. Then from there, okay, here's what my broadcast mass email follow-up campaign is going to be. Now here's my phone calls. Okay. I'm going to call them that Monday after the open house. Then if I don't know their timeline, I'm going to call them every other day for the first 14 days. Then every other day for the first 14 days, then every 21 days for the first year. That exists until I identify their goal, identify their timeline, set appointment if able or appropriate, if unable or appropriate, because now I know goal and timeline. Now I can adjust to that next right follow-up protocol. So you got to make sure that you are creating and implementing the right follow-up process to go out there and maximize conversions. So you got to know what that is, and understand timeline and frequency will help with that, right? Or understand what their timeline is going to help with that. Now, here's the cool part about this. You guys don't need to go out there and reinvent the wheel on this stuff. I'm telling you right now, there's other people out there that are crushing it and killing it in this industry with any of the lead sources that you're going after or that you want to go after, right? So just go out there and figure out what they're doing. That's what I do. That's what I've always done in my real estate business. Like from day one, people often ask, well, how'd you sell so many deals your first year, 40 deals your first year, 103, like, how did you do that? Well, dude, like, I didn't try to reinvent the wheel. I just went out there and found a freaking badass, did whatever it took to be mentored by them. So I was just given the roadmap. So I just eliminated the guesswork. I just went out there and started executing, right? Okay, but you got to know that. So now you have the follow-up machine to plug them into. Okay, so then key factor number 7. So we're almost done here. Key factor number 7 is understanding that appointments get set on the phones. Yes, I do all those things. Yes, I'm doing property alerts. Yes, I'm doing emails. I'm doing text messages. I do all of those things. And once in a while, about 10% of my appointments I get set come from those. But 90%, or in a lot of cases, greater than 90%, but roughly in my business, about 90%, based on the sources that I do, 90% of my appointments get set through the phones directly. So you got to quit, don't be afraid of the phones. Stop looking for any and every excuse not to hit the phones. Look, you want to become a badass when it comes to setting appointments. You got to get damn good on the phones. So there's really 3 pieces of advice that I have here with this understanding that appointments get set on the phones. Because look, you want to get good at this, you just got to get over your fear. I've got podcasts on overcoming call reluctance. If you struggle with that, I struggle with that massively. I used to spend more time looking at the phone than I did dialing on it. So for those of you that are in that situation, I get it. I understand that I had those too, but we can't just use that as an excuse to not go out there and take the action. No, that's a problem. You identify the problem, then you figure out what you must do to solve that problem, or just quit the industry, or just continue, just close the amount of units that you're closing right now and just accept that that's going to be your production level for the rest of your life, right? Like those are your options, right? And I'm not trying to be this to be a jerk, but it's just a reality situation. And look, I'm a big believer in, telling people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear, right? Okay. So then from there, we talked about this earlier, but piece of advice here, number one, when it comes to the phones is, you got to sell the value of the appointment. We're not selling our services over the phone. I'm not trying to close them over the phone. So when every conversation with them is just about, let's just say I'm calling an absentee owner. I'm having a conversation with them, right? How am I leading to setting that up? I'm not trying to talk them into listing yet. I'm not trying to talk them into listing with me yet. It's just hey, well, why don't we do this? Just in case this might be something of benefit to you. Why don't we set up a Zoom meeting for tomorrow or the following day? I'll go run all the numbers, both on the rental side as well as what it looked like if you were to possibly think about selling your home. This way you have all the information to make the best informed decision for yourself and for your family. During that Zoom meeting, we'll go down, we'll break it down, all the numbers. And again, on the rental side, on the sales side, because look, it might make sense for you to keep this property as a rental, or it might make sense for you to go out there and sell it. But this way you have all the information that you need to make your best informed decision. Does that sound fair? Right. So I'm just selling the value of the appointment, not trying to sell my services over the phone. Okay. So number two, tonality matters. You got to understand that pausing, pacing, tonality, this stuff matters. 70% of sales come from verbal and non-verbal cues. You and I, we can have the same scripts, but if you shift that tonality, right. Because I know tonality at a very high level. Okay, you and I can use the same scripts, and it happens all the time with me, with my agents. Let's just say I got a brand new agent with me that they have all the right scripts to go after, but maybe their conversions are low. Then I'll go in there and, okay, well, let's break down why. So it's not just about what you say, it's how you say it. Let's look at your pacing. Let's look at your pausing. Let's look at, what the tone of your voice is. How you say things matter. It actually is more important what you say than it is how you actually, or it's more important how you say it more, which is more important than what you are actually saying, right? So make sure that, and just a quick, easy hack on this, just slow things down, talk more neutral, because I get it. A lot of times we get excited, we get somebody on the phone, they have interest, or like if you're somebody like me that, I don't say naturally, but that has a lot of energy, that's passionate about what I do. Like, look, if I talk in my natural state to people, I freak them the fuck out, and I'm going to have low conversions. Once they maybe get to know me and trust me, and things are different in that situation. But when it comes to this, just understand you got to master tonality. Okay, so then the third element here is give the consumer what they want. Understand what the consumer wants. What the consumer wants today is they want the information they want and need to make their best informed decision for themselves and their family, but they want to do that in a non-pushy, non-pressure, non-salesy environment. So just give people what they want. You don't follow the golden rule, you follow the platinum rule. The golden rules treat others how they want to, or how you want to be treated. The platinum rules treat others how they want to be treated. So with that, when I understand what the consumer wants and I understand consumer behaviors, consumer psychology at a very high level, because look, we're all consumers too. I'm sure that you hate being hard sold, you hate being high pressured, you hate being pushed into a corner. You probably hate that shit. Right? The most effective salespeople, I call it selling without selling. Yeah, you're selling. Yes, you're leading the process, but you don't know you're being sold to. And I'm telling you right now, people are more easily triggered and more sensitive than any other time in any of our lifetimes. So you have to have hyper awareness of this. This is why I talk so much on this podcast about the power of pre-framing, your pre-frame openers, tonality, all of those things that make a world of difference. You can use the same script, but if you don't pre-frame it correctly, you're going to have much lower conversions than if you pre-frame that thing correctly, right? So make sure that you are selling the value of the appointment, nailing tonality, right? And then giving the consumer what they want. And what I mean by that is operating with the selling without selling approach. Right. So making sure you know how to pre-frame, how to go out there and remove that pressure. Because here's the thing that happens quite often if you're not careful, is a lot of people will set appointments with you knowing that it is a defense mechanism, knowing that they can just cancel or no-show that appointment. So I always look at, okay, if somebody's appointment set to conduction rate is lower than it should be, it's one of three issues, right? They're either not selling the value of the appointment at a high enough level, they're not making the person feel comfortable enough, with them for when they're setting that appointment, they're setting the appointment too far out, or they're not confirming it properly. It's going to be one of those four things, or sometimes a combination of all four, right? So got to make sure that we're nailing that. Got to make sure that we understand those things. Okay, so then from there, well, let me talk about this. I have this in my notes, and sorry if you see me looking down a lot, I got detailed notes down here to keep on track. So just some other helpful things with the phones I think will be helpful. Okay. Just the objective of the first call. Yes, I have scripts for every little thing, but the issue with scripts is things go off script very fast, right? So then from there, I like to understand, okay, what's the goal of this thing? Because if I understand what the goal of the thing is, then even if it goes off script, I can circle it back. I can bring it back. And a lot of times you got to have the ability to go out there and script jump. And, it's like, okay, I might, when I'm calling expireds, okay, I've got one, particular expired script. That's my favorite that I like to lead with. But if they, if I get a certain element of resistance and they go to shut me down, now I can jump over here to my survey script, or, you got to have that ability. But when you understand the overall objective, so what's the objective of conversation number one with every single lead is to identify goal, identify timeline, set appointment if able or appropriate, if unable or appropriate. Now, because when we go goal, we know timeline. Okay, now we know what the follow-up protocol, what the frequency and how long it needs to be based on understanding their timeline going forward. Then the objective of every follow-up call after that. Because the question I get a lot from agents is, well, I know what to say in that initial call, but I don't know what to say on those follow-up calls. Okay, the objective of every follow-up call is to develop rapport and continue to build and deepen rapport and connection, then to reconfirm goal and timeline, and then set appointment if able or appropriate, right? So, hey, last time that we talked, you mentioned it was about 8 months before you're thinking about making a possible move. Does that still sound about right? Or things maybe change there? No, that's still the plans. Okay, great. And look, I value your time. I want to make sure I'm only sending you properties that meet your criteria. I have your search currently set up for XYZ. Is that still what you're looking for, or is anything there change that you want to make me, want me to adjust? Yeah, right. So that's how I'm reconfirming timeline and appointment, right? Or our timeline, goal. And then, okay, if they're 8 months out, okay, now I'm going to go in and hey, I know last time you mentioned you weren't quite ready, but because it's so important, and I truly believe in my professional opinion, this is the next best step. So I want to just toss it out there again for you. And then boom, I go into my appointment setting script, right? Okay. So then the last step here. Number 8. And again, I kind of opened with this, but I want to end with this because again, it's extremely important. Understanding why leads exist inside your world as a real estate professional, real estate agent. And again, doesn't matter what level they are, but leads only exist for one reason: to set appointments. So every single lead that's in your CRM, whether it's a buyer, seller, agent, recruit, whatever, you need to have a follow-up game plan for that lead. I talk to so many people all the time, like, well, I don't want to be reaching out. I don't want to bug them because what if they opt out? Look, yeah, you're going to exponentially have more opt-outs. You're exponentially going to get more no's than you ever get yeses. It's the name of the game. It's how it's going to go. You're going to be the best of the best with any conversion course. Nobody converts 100%. Coaching client rejecting them, not doing business. I'm sorry, my camera seems to be glitching there. I don't know if you guys are seeing that, but 68%, even the best of the best, highest converter I've ever witnessed, ever seen, 68% of that lead source is not going to work with them. So even if you're the best of the best, or if you're doing amazing at open houses, converting 1 out of 10, that means 9 of the 10 aren't going to ever do business with you. So when I look at, okay, people are opting out, or if they tell me, when they say no, right? A lot of times it means no, not right now. You continue falling. But I mean, maybe they just go ape shit on me and tell me to F off. Like, dude, it's just, it's how the name of the game goes. Right? So just understand that, okay, these leads exist for you to set an appointment. So you should be auditing your CRM and make sure that every lead inside there is on the right follow-up program, and you have a game plan action for that lead to go out there and maximize conversion. So one of my coaching clients who started with me back in January, comes to me and walks through what their lead source is and how many leads they have in their database. I'm like, look, dude, you got gold inside your database. Now, I'm not saying to, stop generating new leads. You might need to pause temporarily so you can get caught up with your lead follow-up here. But I'm like, you got gold in there, dude. Right? Like, let's switch up your process. Let's switch up your scripting. Let's get this honed in. But I'm like, you got probably 100 grand sitting in there or more with what's already sitting in your CRM, sitting in your database. And that's held out to be true. He just messaged me just the other day. He's closed. So that it was January. Right now it's in May. He has closed 5 transactions. He's got another one that he's currently working with that's under contract, but already had 5 closings since so essentially one every single month from just going, like just reactivating and then making sure that every one of those leads was on a correct follow-up protocol and was working with those leads, because so many of those were just being neglected. And I mean, there's just, you're probably sitting on a shit ton of gold inside your business right now. So I'm going to leave it at that so you know that and understand that. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, look, if you want to take advantage of a 100% free, 100% zero pressure, 1 hour long Zoom coaching call with me personally. Now, this is not some shallow bullshit bait and switch, try to upsell you into a bunch of crap coaching call. And the reason why I bring this up is, dude, it is probably like, I don't know, every third coaching call that I do, I'm like, holy crap, I got so much value out of this. I had somebody the other day that's been coaching. I'm not going to mention their names, but coaching with one of the top coaches in the industry. I don't believe in throwing other people on the bus, but coaching with one of the top coaches, paying him insane amounts of money for the last 9 months, was like, dude, I got more in this 60-minute. Now this was a highly, high producing team leader. It was like, man, I got more out of this 60-minute free coaching call with you than I have with this other coach that I've been paying for 9 months. Yeah, right. Like, I'm going to stop paying for them, jump into your coaching program. Now, that wasn't the intent of the call. The call was jumping into them, but it just blew their mind, with that. But that happens so often. People are like, oh my God, man, I can't believe, I've got more out of this than I have in my 10 years of trainings. And look, I don't want to oversell my capabilities, or whatever with you. But what I'm trying to bring up here is, I understand that there's a lot of others that offer free coaching calls and they end up being a bait and switch or shallow, or, just end up being some bullshit and they try to upsell a bunch of stuff. That's not what this is about. This is about a 100% for, just like when I normally charge that, or if you wanted to work with me on an ongoing basis for one-on-one coaching, it's $1,000 a session. So you're going to get the same in this free session as if you were paying me $1,000 for this session. Right? That's how deep we are going to go. We're going to break down where your business is at, what your 12-month goals are, what your long-term goals are, what your obstacles are, what you're currently doing. Then from there, I'm going to map out and walk through, hey, here's exactly what you must do. Here's exactly what I recommend that you do to go out and get from where you're at to where you want to go in the quickest, most effective, efficient, profitable manner possible. You will not leave this 1 hour Zoom coaching call without having extreme clarity on what those next steps are of what you must start taking action on. I promise you, I got your back. I will not waste your time. I can't do these forever. I don't know how much longer I'm going to do these. Probably, I don't even want to give a time frame because I don't know. They're extremely time consuming, but I know there's a lot of people struggling in this market, and this is just a way for me to give back. I only promote these in here on the podcast. So this is just a way for me to go out there and give back to, all of you that have been supporting me on the podcast for so long. So if you want to book that, go to www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call, www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. Now, once you book that, there's going to be a really important video for you to watch, just to make sure that you're most prepped. And I always like to be, fully upfront, full disclosure. Look, yeah, we're going to spend 50 minutes doing everything I just talked about. The last 10 minutes, I'm going to spend a couple minutes walking through some of the coaching options that I have, just so you have awareness that they exist. And if it's something you want to move forward with, cool. If not, that's okay too. We can still be friends. I'm not going to ask you to whip out a credit card. I'm not going to beg you. I'm not going to hard sell you. I have a very strict zero pressure policy. I'm not going to make you feel guilty. Like, look, you let me know, hey, this is something I want to do. I'm not even going to be like, hey, what do you think about that? You want to sign up? It's just, hey, here's what I got. And then you can tell me, yeah, that looks great. I want to sign up, or hey, no, that's not for me. Either way, it's okay. We can still be friends. Like, I don't want to say it doesn't matter to me. I'd love to work with you. Love to help you in, say, your real estate business, but I'm not, starving for coaching clients. So it's not like, I'm not desperate on this. So, but I like to lead with that with full disclosure. So again, www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. All right, guys, keep crushing, keep kicking ass. I will see you next time. Peace.